Thank you, Reverend Nemley and everyone, and I'm so glad to be a part of this service today. Thank you, Hattie, for inviting me and for the Athens Area Human Relations Council, and greetings from the Interfaith Clergy Partnership of Greater Athens. Wow, I'm already so moved by everyone's words and talks, and I'd like to start this with a prayer from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. This was delivered at a freedom rally in St. Louis, Missouri on April 10th, 1957. God grant that ministers and lay leaders and civic leaders and businessmen and professional people all over the nation, and I would add everything that Chaplain Cole put in here too, will rise up and use the talents and the finances that God has given them and lead the people on toward the promised land of freedom with rational, calm, nonviolent means. All of us together in this sacred space and in this space of communion and connection, what can we do to create a more beloved community? A Unity minister friend of mine mentioned at a recent talk that to create a beloved community, we begin with being a beloved community. Can you feel the love here today? I certainly can. And how do we create an even bigger and better and more and deeper beloved community? I'm focusing my reflections today on peace and on love. As I watch the beautiful snow falling, you feel the quietude of snow. Growing up in Wisconsin, I used to walk out on wintry nights and just feel that depth of quiet that's in the snow. Why? Perhaps because all the outer was for a while compressed. My ears weren't touched by all the sounds, even within my own head. I just focused on the snow and the peace of it. And we are given that today on this special occasion and as a rarity in Georgia. I was reading, refreshing on the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, found this little book, which I'm going to get a copy of, Why We Can't Wait. And he was speaking in here about protests that went on in Birmingham, all the violence, all the terror, all the awfulness, the hoses especially, just really tore at my heart when I read all that. But one thing he mentioned in here were that when some of the people not exactly connected to the protests started striking back and throwing rocks and bricks, that he immediately forgave them. He didn't speak against them because he said they weren't trained in the ways. Wow. So we can train ourselves in the ways, and we can train others in the ways of peace and making things happen from a powerful place, oh yes, from a speaking up place, oh yes, but also with that underlying piece of beloved community. Because only, not just part of it will be beloved community, it's to make all of it beloved community, and hopefully send that on into our world where other countries, other nations that seem to be in conflict can also find beloved community. I believe that we are purveyors of peace simply by walking in this world. Purveyors of peace by holding an attitude of, as much as we can, not being too resistant, but also doing the resistance we need at times, but doing it in small ways. If we see someone in a store that seems agitated or upset, we send them peace. Maybe not with our words. Maybe it's not a time where we can say something or intervene, but we can send them peace. And in our own hearts and with our families and people that we can connect with, to perhaps just stop and say, from whatever our faith tradition is, let's have a prayer. I knew a couple once where they talked at a table where we were all gathered, and we were saying, how do y'all get along so well? And she said, well, every time we start to disagree, one or the other will say, let's have a prayer. I'm going to remember that myself. The other thing that I'm thinking about so much today as I'm remembering this legacy of this incredible person, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, is love. Love for each other, love for the beloved community, and a love for whatever we call the divine and our beautiful different traditions that are represented here today. And what jumped out at me again from my reading was when he was sent into solitary confinement in Birmingham in a dark, tall cell, waiting and worrying about where the money was going to come from to help the people that had been arrested. I think there were still 300 people short of bail money, wondering where this money was going to come from. Not even worried about himself, worried about the others, sending out love. And he said he looked up and it was a tall ceiling and it was so dark and black in there. But then there was a light way up there. And to me, that reflects Spirit God, again, our name for the divine, that is always with us, even in the darkest times. And he was able to get a message out. And it turned out that Harry Belafonte, I believe it was, sent a huge donation that was able to cover and get the other people out of jail along with himself. Wow. When things seem so dark, we can be purveyors of peace. When things seem so difficult, and are we ever going to change? And how do we bump up against these laws that want to be changed? How can we be sure we're going to get voting rights? How can we be sure to stay a democratic, healthy, peace-loving nation? I think it is as we are conduits of love.
Yes.
And we take the steps to move forward. I'm going to close with another prayer from Martin Luther King. It's entitled "In This Moment of Difficult Decision," and it's believed it was spoken at Ebenezer Baptist Church when his father was minister there and he was associate. Eternal God, out of whose mind this great cosmic universe, we bless thee. Help us to seek that which is high, noble, and good. Help us in the moment of difficult decision. Help us to work with renewed vigor for a warless world, a better distribution of wealth, and a brotherhood that transcends race or color.
Amen.
Man.
Amen. Wow.
Man.
Whew. I tell you what, if y'all don't feel something today, as they would say in my Baptist church there at Bethel Baptist Church, if y'all don't feel something today, that's your fault. You didn't bring it here. You didn't bring an empty cup. Because our speakers, our presenters today are filling this cup up. I'm going to tell y'all right now, when we call up this Southern Baptist preacher in just a few minutes, I'm down at Oconee Baptist Church, you're going to be overflowing. I'm going to tell you right now. But that's just how he does it. That's just how he does it. I'm going to tell you right now. Chaplain Cole, I'm going to tell you right now. That's how we grew up at Ebenezer. That's how we grew up at Bethel and Oconee. Got roots in all them churches, y'all. I'm going to tell you right now. Got roots in all of them. Lord have mercy. There's a nun in every one of them churches. I'm going to tell you right now. So anyway, at this time, I'd like to, again, pause and reflect, and more importantly, this mission that the Athens Area Human Relations Council is on, folks, is not easy.